thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great of you to be here. Let's just start with the basics then. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about RotoGro as an organization.
Absolutely, I'd love to. So myself, I'm the CEO of RotoGro. RotoGro is a technology partner in the indoor vertical farming market space, offering our full facility state-of-the-art cultivation solutions to the industry. Our unique market position is really due to our competitive advantage. This is the rotational garden systems, which represent a sort of technological revolution in the space, if you will. In essence, they're a commercial scale, cutting edge crop cultivation solution set to lead the charge in sustainable urban indoor farming. The intrinsic design of the garden system really permits RotoGro to offer indoor vertical farmers a technology that not only increases yield per square meter, but also significantly reduces the operational expenditure when compared to other indoor vertical farming technology. And that includes the advanced flat deck stacked growing methods. They're readily available. The garden systems really maximize the plant surface growing area by situating a spherical garden around a centrally placed light, which is also proprietary to RotoGro. The garden systems, they can also be stacked one on top of another while also being stacked side by side, really maximizing the yield per square meter when compared to the floor space in which they occupy. The result is maximized utilizable plant surface growing area within the cultivation space itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating system, and obviously very different from what you'll see more or less anywhere else on the market. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about how you guys came to that. How did you come to something that was sort of fundamentally different from what everyone else was doing? What were the advantages of that, and where do you see that coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really looked at the industry and tried to understand what was plaguing the industry, the problems that the industry traditionally had with it. And a number of problems came to mind. Indoor vertical farming is or can be more expensive than conventional farming or greenhouse farming. So what we tried to do was optimize the yield per square meter while also optimizing electricity use and labor use as well to keep the OpEx down. And I think that's a really important point for RotoGro. So the garden systems, they encompass patented and patent pending designs that allow indoor vertical farmers to utilize the technology to decrease their operational expenditure. As we all know, and as I mentioned, indoor vertical farming traditionally demands significant electricity usage, and with this comes significant cost. The highest operational cost, as I'm sure everyone knows, for indoor vertical farming is usually power, followed by labor. So our technology decreases the traditionally required electricity usage in two ways. So the first is the intrinsic design of our garden system. So we situate that spherical garden around a centrally placed proprietary lighting system, which optimizes the use of light to gross surface area ratio. Second, our centrally placed lighting system incorporates a patented ducted cooling design, which draws air through that centrally placed lighting system, which then disperses that heated air either to another location within the facility or to the exterior of the facility. It's a closed loop system. By removing the heat generated by the lights through the ducted system, the air conditioning costs associated with cooling that heat generated from the lights decreases, therefore decreasing the air conditioning costs and therefore the humidification and dehumidification costs as well. And that comes along with controlling the entire environment for that cultivation area. Further to this is that we're able to reuse that heat if necessary, depending on where you are in the world. So for example, Canada's winters are obviously quite cold. So if we can repurpose that heat to another part of the facility, it really cuts down on the heating costs as well. The software system that we use is entirely proprietary, designed in-house, and they really allow the garden systems to be a plug-and-play operation by controlling all the mechanics within the garden system, the environmental parameters within the cultivation area as a whole, and the plant nutrient management system all on screen and in real time. These parameters can be preset, automating the entire cultivation process facility-wide, which I think is quite unique to the RotoGro technology. This, in turn, significantly reduces the labor that's traditionally required throughout the indoor vertical farming area, which positively contributes to the workflow efficiencies and labor costs as well. The RotoGro plant nutrient management system, or fertigation system as we like to call it, delivers to the garden systems the water or water nutrient concentration, depending on the media that you're using, to the system. And it also recycles up to 98% of the water used throughout the cultivation cycle, again decreasing the operational expenditure or other negative environmental impacts when compared to other vertical farming technologies. Further to this, the garden systems utilize a proprietary LED lighting system through that centrally placed light. The plant science team, RotoGro's plant science team, has done a fantastic job. They've optimized that LED lighting spectrum throughout the grow cycle to really enhance the growth of the plants. And the software system provides cultivators with the ability to adjust that LED lighting spectrum and intensity, as well as automate the entire lighting process throughout the cultivation cycle. We've also designed and implemented at our research and design facility located here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, an automated guided vehicle system. The system autonomously delivers grow trays from the propagation area to the multi-stacked garden systems, and conversely, once the crop is ready for harvest, from the systems themselves off to the harvesting area. Again, this system is entirely controlled by RotoGro software, allowing operators to really pre-program the loading and unloading schedules, removing the need for unnecessary human intervention from that cultivation area. Again, reducing labor costs, but also the introduction or potential introduction of pests and pathogens into that area. It's truly a win-win system.
You know, I just wanted to maybe dig a little bit more into this automation question, in particular these AGV, automated guided vehicles. Have I got that right?
You do, yes.
It's a fascinating system, and I think, you know, it's pretty well established now in our industry that labor is costly, but it can also be problematic in terms of process flows and especially in terms of reaching scale. So how important has that been for you in terms of those things, both in terms of cost and that scaling up question? How much easier does it make that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's vital. It's vital for the proper scaling from an economic standpoint. Labor, you know, depending on where you are in the world, can be quite expensive. Of course, you know, some degree of human intervention is necessary, and I would argue a good thing throughout the facility, obviously, to keep an eye on things and make sure that the system in and of itself is running properly. But in terms of scale, removing that excess labor and really allowing the automated guided vehicles coupled with our technology to really cater to the scale or the expansion of the process within that cultivation area itself is vital. And the simplicity of the design that we've come up with is you know, something close to revolutionary. Perhaps I'm a little biased there, but it really caters to the efficiencies of the facility, you know, facility wide.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you talk about how different that system is, obviously. And, you know, a system like this has taken a while to develop. And, you know, obviously you guys have been around in the industry for quite a long time. So I guess what I wanted to ask is, you know, how much have things changed over that period of time in your experience?
Things have changed considerably. I think most important to this conversation was the company's shift to steadily focus on producing technology for the indoor vertical farming, perishable food or produce sector. As mentioned previously, we analyzed this sector in 2018 to understand how our existing technology could be developed further to really change the landscape, you know, and help out from the operational side of things throughout that industry. So in turn, we developed a technology to cater to the problems that we found. We understood quite quickly that the premise of our technology offered significant yield per square meter advantages than when compared to other technologies in the space. But putting that aside for a moment, we went one step further to redesign the size of our already existing garden system to optimize operational expenditures, mainly power consumption. And by offering operators a solution to that problem, by maximizing the light to gross surface area ratio, and then linking this in with our patented hot air removal system to reduce HVAC loads, we began to really appreciate our competitive advantage in the space. Moving past the cool factor of RotoGro's technology, the technology really became what we believe to be the viable solution to sustainable indoor vertical farming, given its ability to increase yield per square meter, while significantly decreasing the operational expenditures when compared to the other array of technologies penetrating the space. And that's important because moving forward in this industry, I think most indoor vertical farming companies, they realize that we need to provide a solution to the industry. The population is growing, arable land is decreasing, water is becoming more scarce. There's a number of factors as to why this industry is where it is and will move to where it needs to move. But we need to do so in a sustainable fashion, and we need to be able to provide operators a solution to do so, to generate profit. At the end of the day, it's that's important.
Obviously, you've got this system where the plants are in this circular system. How, if at all, does that make any difference to the plants? Do they kind of notice? Is it does it make a difference to the growing at all? I'm just out of pure curiosity.
It does. So the plant science team has been focused on this for quite some time, previously in our smaller machine, but more in the larger machine, as the plants are that much further away from the lighting system, and the circumference of the garden is that much bigger. It became an exercise of understanding the benefits to that design in and of itself, aside from the light advantages, the light to gross surface area advantages, and the yield per square meter advantages. There's some other interesting designs there as well. So what we found is that as the garden system revolves around that centrally placed light, once the nutrients or water nutrient concentration is injected into the grow trays, we found that as the water flows throughout those grow trays, that it sucks oxygen in, really oxidizing the root base of those plants, leading to a much healthier plant throughout the entire cultivation process.
Okay, let's talk about the future, because obviously we've talked about how you got here to this point. I can't help but think every time I look at your system, I can't help thinking it belongs on a space station one day. It's going to need to be, it looks like one of those space age things. But more broadly than that, I guess, as for both the short, medium, and long term, what's next for you, and where do you see all of this going?
It's interesting you say that. We actually just applied to the NASA DSA Deep Space Food Challenge, whereby we're redesigning one of our garden systems, our smaller garden systems, to fit within the parameters that have been allotted. So we're excited to see where that one goes. But to answer your question, as a team, we really work together to not only understand where the industry is headed, but to foresee why the industry is headed in that direction. This allows us to predict and to put in place the solutions to cater to the why. Because of this, we're currently looking to other green and progressive industries to really predict the next shift for indoor vertical farming. In turn, what's next for the company is to construct a commercial scale indoor vertical farm with one of our partners in space. The medium-term goal is to penetrate the space globally, building relationships with local players in various jurisdictions that require our technology to move forward with the indoor vertical farms that really provide for long-term sustainability. This would also involve, relevant industry synergistic opportunities and renewable energy and the like, and something I think that's something that I truly believe the industry isn't quite utilizing as efficiently as it could. Our long-term objectives are to be instrumental leaders in the space, whereby RotoGro's technology would be a major facet in establishing a global green supply chain in the agricultural industry. In essence, RotoGro, as a whole, is prepared to provide solutions to the problems we face today, but we're also geared up to put in place solutions to the problems that we may face tomorrow. Our advanced engineering expertise, coupled with our plant scientists, our plant science capabilities puts us into a uniquely and versatile position to really foster our competitive advantage in the space, something that we recognize and will certainly use to provide the most efficient and effective agricultural technology solutions to achieve our goals.
Can't argue with that. Well, I mean, that brings me to the end of my questions. But Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, and it's great to know more about what you're doing and have you guys on board with the Farm Tech Society. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure, and we're excited to move forward with you as well.